Welcome back to the Book Nook. I was reading a newspaper today and I read about a crash on the subway system. Recently, we've heard about lots of disasters. We've heard about explosions at nuclear plants. All of us have probably read John Krakauer's book on the deaths on a Mount Everest summit. We've known about the Challenger disaster. There's numerous disasters that happen. And we've also heard that human error is to blame for many of these disasters. Now, as we've seen in this course, we know that human judgment and decision-making isn't perfect, but for human decision-making to cause catastrophes as large as the Challenger disaster or a subway crash, something must have happened in the environment for those little errors to be magnified into huge ones. That is, in fact, the subject of a new book by my University of Toronto colleague, Andras Tilsik and Chris Clearfield. The book is called Meltdown: Why Our Systems Fail and What We Can Do About It. Now, Andras and his co-author argue that our systems in the modern day world have become increasingly complex. And while complexity gives us amazing new capabilities, it also leaves our systems vulnerable to small errors that can get rapidly magnified. Here's a little something about the book in the words of Andras Tilsik and Chris Clearfield.
Have you ever noticed that hardly a week goes by without reports of some big, surprising failure? The crash of a subway train, a disastrous marketing campaign, or a computer glitch that wreaks havoc in the financial markets. What do these failures have in common? At first glance, nothing. But when we dug deeper into these kinds of failures, we started to see connections between them. A sort of shared DNA. These failures weren't caused by obvious human errors or big external shocks. They somehow just emerged from a bunch of small mistakes that came together in unexpected ways. It turns out that two things cause these kinds of failures. The first is complexity. A complex system is more like an elaborate web than an assembly line. Its parts are intricately linked and can easily affect one another, and it's hard to figure out what's going on. The second thing has to do with how much slack there is in a system. When a system has little slack, the margin for error is slim, and the failure of one part can easily affect the others. Everything happens quickly, and we can't just turn off the system while we figure out what the problem is. When a system has both of these things, it's in what we call the danger zone, where small problems can easily turn into big meltdowns. When these ideas first emerged, nearly 40 years ago, they were used to understand high-risk industries like nuclear power plants and space missions. And when we started our research, we assumed that we'd mostly be writing about big failures and how to prevent them. But what we've discovered is that many systems have moved into this danger zone. As a result, these kinds of meltdowns are now everywhere, from social media to the cars we drive. They can wreck our businesses, ground whole airline fleets, and jail innocent people. But there's good news too. By understanding what lies behind these failures, we can design better systems, make our teams more productive, and transform how we make decisions at work and at home. In Meltdown, we take you inside some of the world's most effective teams, from NASA engineers to climbers on Mount Everest. We share insights from emergency room doctors and lessons from a busy family that used constant experimentation to perfect their morning routine. Our research shows why ugly designs make us safer, how a 5-minute exercise can prevent billion-dollar catastrophes, why teams with fewer experts are better at managing risk, and why diversity is one of our best safeguards against failure. We uncovered strategies that everyone can use to anticipate big failures and manage surprises. And we discovered how we can all benefit from an airline training program that has made flying safer than ever before. The good news is that there are things we can all do, some small, some big, to make meltdowns less likely in both our businesses and our lives.